Well, what's happening, City Group? I'm so pumped to be hanging out with you guys today. If y'all don't know, my name is John. I'm the student pastor here at Radiant, and I am just pumped to be hanging out with y'all. It's a big deal that you are here. There's so many things you could have done with your Sunday, but you chose to come to City Group, and I just gotta say, man, I'm glad you made it. And there's a special group of students I wanna take a quick moment and welcome. That's all of our first-time students. So if you're a first-time student, man, we're glad you're here. Radiant students, y'all give it up for those first-time students. It's a big deal that you are here. I hope you guys are having a great time, and I hope that we're gonna get to learn together, grow in community together, and it's just gonna be a great time together just hanging out. And so today, we are kicking off a brand new City Group series called The First. Look at your neighbor and say, The First. Y'all, I think the first matters. You know, we always care about who comes in first. We always care about, when the Bucks won the Super Bowl back in 2021, it was a big deal because they came in first place. And man, they were a losing team before then, but we cared because now all of a sudden they are first. And it's so important that we're looking at people because the first matters. Nobody cares about who came in last in the race. We want to know who came in first. We don't care about what is the worst, sports team out there. We don't care about who was the worst on Dance Moms. We care about who was first out there. And it's so important that we understand the value of the first. And so as we're diving into this series, we're going to talk about something that might be a little interesting and it might be a little weird for some of y'all, but I just want to encourage you, lean in and see what God can kind of help you learn in this series. And we're going to talk today specifically about tithing. Now, I know that tithing is a weird word. What does that even mean? It's a church word. You only really ever hear it around church. You never hear that anywhere else. And I'm going to tell you what tithe means. Are you ready? Tenth. Big deal. Tithing means tenth. And what that means is that whatever you have, let's say if you have $100, God would encourage you to tithe 10% because it's the 10th. So that we would get, if we get $100, we would give $10 back to the church or to a charity or to a missions, whatever we feel like God is leading us to give to, that we would give 10%. And I remember when I was a teenager and I was going to a church and I started working some part-time jobs here and there and I was making some money. And I remember my dad would pull me aside and he would say, "Hey son, are you tithing your money?" And I would say, "I don't really know what that means. Like, why would I give my money? I've earned it. It's my money. Like, I don't even have to pay taxes yet. Like, why do I have to give any of it away? Like, I got a new pair of shoes that I really want to buy. I need all the money that I can get." And my dad would always encourage me with this idea that God is always going to bless those that are faithful in giving back. And that's really what the Bible teaches, this principle of the value and the importance of putting our money first, putting our tithe first, and making sure that we're giving to God what is God's. And I love this story in the Bible because it gives such a clear picture of what tithing is supposed to look like. So if you have your Bibles, open it up to Mark chapter 12 and look at verse 42. And it says that a poor widow came and put in 2 small copper coins, which make a penny. And he called his disciples, he being Jesus, and he said to them, "Truly I say to you, this poor widow has put more than all those who are contributing to the offering box. For they all contributed out of their abundance, but she out of her poverty, and has put everything she had and all she had to live on." Guys, there's something special about this idea of when we put God first. And what I think is so cool is that when we start a relationship with Jesus, we have to make sure that God becomes the first thing in our life. And that's what this whole series is about, is putting the right thing first, putting what's first needs to be first. And God is going to be first. And I think one of the best ways that we can show that God is first is where are we putting our money? Where are we putting our money? Now, maybe some of you are in here and you're saying, "John, I don't have a job. I don't even get an allowance. I'm not getting any money. What do I do with this lesson?" I would encourage you with this. When you have something, are you willing to give it back to people that need it? If you're sitting at the cafeteria and you have food and maybe your friend doesn't have food, are you sitting there saying, "Oh man, I'm sorry that you don't have any food today"? Or are you generous with what God has given you and you give your friend what's first? And you don't give your friend what was left over. You don't eat and get full and then just hand him the scraps and say, "Well, here, this is what you have." No, you take that sandwich and you break that sandwich apart and you give him the first little bit. You give him the best part. You give him the best portion because you want to live a life that's generous. You want to live a life where you are putting what's first. And so I would encourage you today, as we jump into the small group time, this might be a weird topic. That's okay. That's how we grow, is in weird topics and weird conversations and talking about weird things. But I would encourage you that we are going to figure out what's really first in our hearts. And we're gonna put the first thing first. So let's jump into those small groups, let's show up, and let's open up. And I'm excited for us to have this conversation.